We're going to start with Theo. So he posted a video, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now, went super viral because obviously Theo Von's super popular on the internet. I find him to be a very, just like a sympathetic, empathetic, like kind-hearted dude. Never met him, obviously. But just from the way he's so authentic, the way he moves, the way his podcast, he's just really, really authentic. That's why his podcast has grown the way he has grown. Like he just is who he is, and I find him very endearing. I don't know if I find him super funny. Like I don't find him to be like a comedian per se. I just find him to be like just a genuine cool dude that I would probably want to hang out with. And he posted a video about his thoughts on what's happening in Gaza. And my question to you is, if you were sitting here with us right now, what would you say to him?
I'd ask him a very simple question. What do you actually know versus what do you think you know? I know for a lot of people that's a really difficult question to answer because how do I know the things that I don't know? But I find it zero coincidence whatsoever that he posted these thoughts and he's been saying these things, kind of implying them for a couple of months now. But the one in particular segment of his podcast that he had came directly off of his trip to Qatar. And there, when you go into the news stories that the Wall Street Journal pointed out, where there was more than 250 right-wing influencers were contacted by Qatar, which has put more than $5 billion into the college and university education system in the United States of America over the last 2 decades, it just so happens that he had to talk about that point right after he came back from Qatar, which, by the way, really threw its weight around and showed to the entire world that if it wanted to, it could get every single Israeli hostage back from the terrorist entity known as Hamas. So it's very interesting to me. And the question that I would love to hear from him is, what exactly do you know about this issue? And what do you think you know about this issue?
Yeah, because like when I hear him speak specifically in that video, like what it seems to me like he's referring to is just this pull on his heartstrings from seeing videos and pictures of dead children and women. Like everyone feels that way. We feel that way. I don't want to see that. That's horrific. That's why this war in particular is much different than any war we've ever seen ever before, because it's in front of our very eyes. Like we're seeing the grotesque horror of it like in real time, and our brains are just not developed for that type of shit. We don't have the ability to parse these things out unless we look at it at a really deep level. And so I think Theo is just speaking on like a really human level about he's just really sad to see this happening. And I agree with that sentiment. We're all really sad to see this happening. But then it has to go a bit further about, whose fault is it? Who's to blame? How can we correct the situation? Like, where should our support be going to? Those are the deeper questions that have to underlie that, like, heartbrokenness about what's happening to all of the people that have been killed.
We all have our niche online, and I feel like for better and for worse, my niche is being that person that's not very empathetic because empathy doesn't come naturally to me. Like I've really had to work on it, and I think we talked about it in the previous conversation that we had, that my wife is so high on emotional intelligence that it actually brings me up. But for somebody like Theo Von, which is also the Dave Smith argument, and so many on what are now being dubbed the woke right by James Lindsay, what they're trying to do is use compassion and empathy as a weapon. But the thing that they don't understand is while they cry, literally in the case of Theo Von and even Joe Rogan, while they cry for the dead Palestinians, one, they absolve the Palestinians and the Palestinian people of all blame. Because remember, October 7th was 6,000 people. It was about half terrorists and half civilians. And even the civilians who weren't there on that first wave, there were more that came in afterwards and looted the kibbutzim. So while you're talking about your empathy and you're showing your compassion, the thing that everybody that uses that argument is forgetting is that your argument is going to end with more dead people, not more dead Israelis, and not just more dead Jews or more dead Arab Israelis. It's going to end with more dead Palestinians. And that's why, and I talk about it all the time, World War II, the question I always pose to people is, If the United States had not dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how many Palestinians, excuse me, how many Japanese do you think would have died at the end of World War II? Because everybody talks about how many American servicemen, up to 1 million is that top end number. But the number that everybody forgets to ask is how many Japanese would have died? Not just soldiers, not just men, but women and children. Because compared to the 1 million American service members that would have died, it would have been 3, 4, 5, 10 million Japanese, maybe even the entire culture, if they didn't somehow figure out that Emperor Hirohito wasn't actually a god on Earth and finally realized that surrender was the better term. Because right now, what you're getting is a militarily superior force against a militarily inferior force that is using compassion and empathy as their defensive weapons, and that's their plan. And they're not giving up. And I'm sorry, but the Israelis didn't start the war. So your compassion, your empathy, as much as it makes you feel bad, and you, Aaron, where you genuinely do feel bad, and I do too, even though it doesn't sound like that, but the way that that compassion and empathy is being used, ironically, is actually going to end with more dead Palestinians, and that's not at all what I want.
Thank you very much for tuning in to that clip. If you enjoyed it, then you'll love the full-length episode right here. Right here. Click it. Go ahead. Go ahead.